Hi guys, welcome back to lesson 5 of our numeracy skills topic today. We are going to be looking at multiplying and dividing by multiples of 10, 100 and 1000. So what I mean by that is our stations of our 10 times table, 20, 30, 40, our 100 times table, 300, 400, 500 and 1000, so 5000, 6000, 7000, numbers like that. Your success criteria today is telling you that you will have been successful if you can understand our steps to multiplying or dividing by multiples of 10, 100 and 1000. And again, a bit like yesterday, you'll see what our steps are as we go through the examples. Okay, so a quick puzzle for you. I want you to pause the video and try these 3 different sums for me and come back and get the answer. Okay, so 2 times 3 times 4. So if we break it down bit by bit, 2 times 3 is 6, and I've still got times 4, and then 6 times by 4 is equal to 24. 3 times by 4 is equal to 12, still timesing by 2, and 12 times by 2 then is 24. And last one, 4 times by 3, well that's still 12, times by 2, and it's exactly the same as that last question there, 24. So we see here that I asked you to multiply the same 3 numbers in 3 different ways, and each time we got that same answer of 24. In maths, if we are multiplying more than 2 numbers together, it doesn't matter what order we do it in. We should get the same answer, whichever way you decide to do it. So how could we do a sum like 56 times 20. Now you're maybe looking at this and thinking, there's only 2 numbers here, Miss Somerville, and we are talking about multiplying more than 2. Well, I can think of my 20 here as 2 lots of 10. So really the sum I'm being asked to do is 56 times by 2 times by 10. So I would break this down into 2 sums then. I would first of all start with the 56 times by the number at the start of my multiple of 10, which is my 2 here. So 56 times by 2. 2 6s are 12, so I write the 2 units down, carry the 1. 2 5s are 10, plus that 1 we carried gives us 11. So I've got 112 there. Step 2 then, I still have to multiply by this 10, so I take my new answer, my 112, and we times by 10, and then remember we said that was as simple as just popping a 0 at the end of that whole number there. One thing I want to make really clear is that I have not just added a 0 at the end here, because 56 times by 2 is not 1120. I can't put that 0 there because mathematically that doesn't make sense. The 2 lines that I have drawn here are my equal sign, and 56 times by 2 is only equal to 112, not 1120. So make sure that you are lining this out with 2 separate answers here. Okay, now you guys have a go at these 2 questions and come back for the answer. Okay, hopefully you paused the video there and have tried these questions. So 48 times by 20, well I'm going to start with my 48 times by the 2. So 48 times by 2, add my equal signs. 2 8s give me 16, carry the 1. 2 4s are 8, plus that 1 is 9. But 96 is not my final answer. I still have this 0 to put on at the end. So 96 times by 10 is going to give me 960. I think some people might have just gone straight from their 96 and maybe underneath or at the side written a fresh 960, and that's okay too. So you would get your mark for that answer there. This time I've got 30 times by 65. Remember, doesn't matter what order we do it in, you can swap that round to be 65 times by 30. So we've got 65 times by the number at the start of our multiple of 10, which is 3 this time. 3 5s are 15, so write the 5 down, carry the 1, and 3 6s are 18, plus that 1 is 19. So 195, but I still have my 0 to put at the end. So 195 times by 10 is going to give me 1,950 for my final answer there. Hopefully we got those two correct. Okay, let's have a think then. How would we do 35 times by 400? Well, 400 is just the same as 4 lots of 100. So this time we're going to multiply whatever number is at the start of our multiple of 100, and then we've got 2 zeros to put at the end this time. So again, start with our sum of 35 times by 4. 4 5s are 20, put my 0 down, carry the 2. 4 3s are 12, plus that extra 2 gives me 14. So I've got 140 as part 1 of my answer. It's not my final answer. I still have to do 140 times by 100. So that is 140 with 2 extra zeros at the end this time. So my answer here is 14,000. Again, can we pause the video and give these two questions a try for me? Okay, so 72 times by 4 to start off with. So that's going to give me 4 times by 2 is 8, and 4 times by 7 is 28. Not my final answer though, I still have to do my 288 times by my 100, and we think of that as taking our whole number and putting 2 zeros at the end this time, and that gives us 28,800. 600 times by 67, well that's the same as being asked to do 67 times by 600. So I'm going to take that 67 and multiply by the 6 at the start. So 67 times by 6. 6 7s are 42. 6 6s are 36. Plus our 4 is 40. So I get 402. And then 402 times by 100 is going to be 40,200 for our final answer. Right, hopefully you guys have spotted the pattern with our sums here, and you can have a go at multiplying by multiples of 1,000. So this time we're timing them by 5,000 and times them by 8,000. Okay, if you had a go at these questions, check your answers, but I'm going to start with my 27, and I'm going to times it by 5, and that is going to be 5 7s are 35, and 5 2s are 10, plus that 3 is 13, and then I've got 3 zeros this time, so I'm going to have 135 times by 1,000, 135, and then 1 2 3 zeros. So our final answer there should be 135,000. For the second one, I'm going to do 16 times by 8. So 8 x's give me 48, and 8 1s are 8, plus 4 is 12. I've still got 3 zeros to put on at the end, so 128 times by 1,000 is going to be 128,000 to give us 128,000. Last couple of examples to finish off then, we're going to try these sums mentally. You can see here that each sum is 2 different multiples of 10, 100 or 1,000, and when we multiply them together it's much simpler than it perhaps first looks. The first thing I'm going to look at then is that I've got a 3. The first thing that I'm going to look at then is that I've got a 3 and I've got a 5, and without having to do much more than just my times tables, I know that 3 5s are 15. I'm then looking at the end of these numbers here, and I've got 1, 2, 3 zeros, so I'm going to put 1, 2, 3 zeros at the end to give me 15,000 for my answer. This time I've got 6 times by 8, which gives me 48, and I've got 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros this time, so 1, 2, 3, 4 zeros in my answer, and that tells us that 600 times by 800 is 480,000. Lastly then, I've got my 7 times by my 3 to give me 21. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 zeros this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. So 700 times by 30,000 is going to give us 21 million for our answer there. So we have just been looking there at multiplying by multiples of 10, 100 and 1,000. So when we did 56 times by 20, we multiplied by 2 and then we added a 0. So how could we do dividing by 20? Well, dividing is just the opposite, so we are going to do the opposite 2 steps here. My opposite of adding a 0 is removing a 0. So my 240 is just going to become 24. So in this case, I've just got 24 divided by 2, and if you wanted to, you could do that as your bus stop sum from before. 2 goes into 24, 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 4 twice, and so 12 is our answer. Have a go at these 2 sums here and come back for the answer. So we've got a 0 in each of these, so I can remove those zeros, and that leaves me with 48 divided by 2. I can write that as my bus stop sum from last time. 2 goes into 4 twice, 2 goes into 8 4 times, leaving me with 24 as my answer. And again, I can remove a 0 from 70 and a 0 from 1,540. I'm going to go straight to my bus stop sum this time. So 7 goes into 154. Well, it can't go into 1, but it can go into 15 twice with 1 remainder. And then 7 goes into 14 twice again for 22 as a final answer. How would we solve 3,500 divided by 500? Well, exactly the same idea. I've got 2 zeros in my 500, and I can remove 2 zeros from my 3,500, and 35 divided by 5 is just equal to 7. Have a go at these 2 and come back for the answers. Okay, 2 zeros at the end of 800, can remove the 2 zeros at the end of 7,200. 72 divided by 8 leaves us with 9 as our answer. And again, 6,800 divided by 400. Well, let's get rid of those matching zeros. This leaves us with 68 divided by 4. And so 68 divided by 4 I'm going to write as my bus stop sum to make my life a wee bit easier when dividing. So 4 goes into 6 once with a remainder of 2, and 4 goes into 28 7 times there to leave us with 17 for our final answer. And finally, you'll be pleased to know, last slide, when we are dividing by multiples of 1,000, it is the same rules of dividing that we've done before. So 7,000 has 3 zeros at the end of it, 49,000 has 3 zeros at the end of it, and so we are left with 49 divided by 7, which leaves us with 7 as our answer. And then 60,000 divided by 3,000, I'm going to have to be careful here. That's 1 0, 2 zeros, 3 zeros, so that is leaving me with 60 divided by 3, and again I'm going to do this as my column sum. 3 goes into 6 twice, no remainder. 3 shares 0 0 times, and so 20 is my answer. Okay, to finish off today's lesson, I've set 3 different sections of work. You can see that there's chili ratings here for difficulty level. 1 chili is mild, so everybody should be able to do the first 3 questions. It's our basic timesing and dividing by our multiples of 10, 100 and 1000. Our medium chili rating is 6 examples of our mental calculations, so you should be doing that with no working, no calculator. Do it in your head. And finally, the hottest level of chilies, the 3 chilies here. Question 5, you need to read these questions carefully and work out, are we timesing or are we dividing in these sums? Again, this will all be posted on Teams, so if you prefer to work from the worksheet rather than the video, it should all be available for you to use now, and answers will be posted at some point tomorrow. Try your best for me, guys, and I'll speak to you in the next lesson.